Andrew Cuomo has been keeping a low profile, not surprisingly lately, trying to keep out of the spotlight as he deals with dueling scandals. The embattled New York governor, he is accused of groping an aide in the governor's mansion. 6 other women say he sexually harassed them. He's also under state investigation over his handling of nursing home deaths from COVID. Now, for the past several weeks, reporters and journalists, they've been digging into the governor's past, including this piece in the New York Times Magazine section with the headline, Andrew Cuomo's White Knuckle Ride. My next guest was quoted in that Times piece, veteran New York political consultant Hank Sheinkopf. Hank, I'm curious, was there anything that's come out in these opuses on what Cuomo has been like behind the scenes to people, what he's been like throughout his political career and the ups and the downs? Does it all ring true to you, or are you a little surprised by what you've learned?
I don't know that I've learned anything so much as I've heard the opinions of an awful lot of people. We're talking about something that's been chronicled over a 40-year period. He ran his father's campaign for governor, an upset in 1982, took Ed Koch out, who was the opponent in the Democratic primary, and then won the general election against the Republican. I mean, that was a big whoop. People counted Andrew out by dint of his father. They thought his father would not win. So here's a guy who never had an easy path and has been very tough. I mean, I said in that piece that, from my perspective, I was the strategist in the campaign that took him out. I referred to him as Andy every day in the Times, New York Times, and other papers throughout the state and television and radio, and made him crazy. You don't get to the top of the game in this business by being a humanitarian or a philanthropist. I haven't met many. And some of the people quoted in that piece should really be ashamed of themselves. I mean, they're not, nobody is clean who gets to the top or even competes. Everybody's got something they had to do because power is not easily obtainable.
There is one thing, though, and like you, I think anyone deluded enough to think that you make it through this pristine, especially, and stay there, you're kidding yourself. But everybody's not surprised that Andrew Cuomo needs to win, but he needs the other guy to lose. And are we seeing some of the consequences of that, in that there is limited constituencies that are going to bat for a governor that still, until recently, had pretty solid approval ratings and the public not calling for his head? A lot of Democrats here have been quietly not just silent, but, piling on.
See how little courage these people have. They should have taken him on when they could. They didn't take him on policy issues. They're waiting until the guy's wounded to take him on. These people are punks. You want to take somebody on, do what Andrew Cuomo would do, right in the face. It's a different kind of behavior. Look, I've worked on 700 campaigns or so in most of the states of this country. I've worked for a successful president, and I've worked in 16 foreign countries. The beast is no different any place you go. Good guys don't get to the top, and good guys don't remain governor overall of this state, which is entirely bifurcated, trifurcated, with both the regionally, racially, social, from a demographic basis, social class, and don't remain there for 12 years during an extraordinarily difficult set of circumstances, being the most nice guy in the world. Is he a tough guy? Sure he is. Was he always a tough guy? I know him since he's 17 years old. I think that's the first time I met him. So he's a tough guy. So am I. Big deal.
You were quoted in the pieces all saying that Andrew Cuomo demands loyalty under all circumstances. The question is, what do people get in return? Listen, there are times, and maybe this is inside baseball, certainly for people who don't follow inside politics, but Tom DiNapoli is as least threatening a human being as you're going to meet. But Cuomo would, verbally at least cuff him at the slightest chance. Sometimes I could say de Blasio had it coming and he picked fights he never had a chance of winning. But even when it wasn't necessary, Cuomo would go after him. Is some of that coming back to roost?
There's no question that rapid response to any attempt to reduce his power, that kind of response is now being fed back to him by people who want him gone. And it's not unreasonable to want him gone. He's served 3 terms, time to go. 4th term, he'd like to make history, probably beat his father out. His father served 3 terms. Like to do that, but it's not likely in the cards, and people want him gone. The issue here is that Andrew Cuomo, unlike Eliot Spitzer, who had no friends when he was governor, had to leave, and he also broke the law in a significant fashion. Andrew Cuomo has some friends. Eliot Spitzer had no friends. David Patterson got into some trouble. He had friends. In this business, You have some friends, you get lucky, and his friends are trying to help him out. But he's a tough guy. He can be very difficult. His people, or he sends his people out. I could have mentioned particular names, but they called me up and complain about things I've said in the paper. And I say, by the way, I don't work for you, and slam the phone down in their ears. You can't be frightened by these folks. They're not, they're who they are. They're political players, and after he's gone, they will be forgotten.
Yeah, I've been on the receiving end of one of those angry calls too, when you don't say what he wants. But yeah, and listen, I say people underestimate even now at their peril the survival instincts of Andrew Cuomo. Where do you think he's got more exposure on this? And I know we don't know all the details, but is it on the nursing home, what terms up here from the probe, or is it from the sexual harassments, et cetera, that the AG is going to be driving? Which one do you think he's got more, it might not turn out well for him?
It is not going to turn out well for him anyway, because he's not going to be elected to a fourth term, likely. He's going to have to leave office at the end of the third term. And the revelations are going to be things he can't control, whether they are in fact true or not. That is different. He cannot control any of this. This is the first time since 2002 that this governor has had things out of control. He got Mark Green into trouble in 2006. How? He made sure Green had to go and collect nominating petitions and blocked him at the Democratic convention. That wasn't a free election. That was a fixed election. But that's what it is about. Blocking your opponents. And here's the first time he can't control his environment since 2002. That's one of the reasons why he slipped up in the early part of the crisis, where he was not in control. He gained his footing, ran it like the crisis management textbook case. But the people around him, frankly, are not the greatest, and they think they're used to being in a bomb shelter. But the truth is, Andrew Cuomo's put his large presence above them to protect them from getting whacked. And they just got banged pretty hard individually.
Do you think he's going to leave of his own volition, in that he won't even attempt to run for a fourth term? Will he step aside before the primary, or do you think he's going to have to learn a hard lesson at the ballot box?
I think he's going to hold this until the end. He will probably last the term. People who are praying for his demise should be careful. The old Chinese proverb: when you wish someone to be dead, you should dig two graves when you seek revenge. And revenge in public life is effectively killing someone. It's hard to see how he doesn't last the term. But the question is, what happens next? And to answer your question that you asked a moment ago in a significant fashion, did it go to his head? He is the governor of the media capital, of the state in which the media capital and financial capitals of the world rest. He had the same thing that Rudy Giuliani had in 2001 at the World Trade Center. He was America's governor. Rudy was America's mayor. Something happens when you have that kind of exposure and you are running the entire discussion. Something happens. What happened to him? He may have lost himself temporarily, but the guy you see now, fighting back in the way he knows how, behind the scenes and playing the role, is the guy who can either survive or not. So don't put your money against him, but don't bet too heavily on him. He's the guy who's not the favorite to win the race right now.
Hank Sheinkopf, great stuff as always. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me on.
We come back. A former federal prosecutor, he'll join us to take a look at the legal trouble facing Matt Gaetz, and also the cases against Gaetz' hero, Donald J. Trump. We'll be right back.